Hey, Bomb Squad, if you're a comedian or a podcaster looking for an affordable website solution with a modern look, then we recommend Pucks Hub. With a Pucks Hub website, you can set up your new website in minutes with easy-to-use pre-built templates. Pucks Hub websites are customizable and can easily be integrated with other platforms like Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. The best part? Pucks Hub plans are only $5 per month. We use Pucks Hub for our website at the Art of Bombing podcast, and we think you should too. That's why we've partnered with Pucks Hub to offer listeners a free 60-day trial. Head over to puckshub.com to subscribe and use promo code AOBPOD at checkout for your 60-day free trial, and then pay only $5 per month after that. Take your career to the next level with your own Pucks Hub website today.
Dan Bublitz Comedy Productions.
Maybe you should hit some mics. That's what's coming up on the Art of Bombing, episode 271.
My friend Dan, he's got a podcast, 'cause all comics need a podcast, and nobody had a podcast called The Art of Bombing. So Dan went out and bought a tape deck. Who knows why he bought a tape deck? Podcasts don't get played on tape decks, but Dan is from the 80s. So hey there, all you funny jerks, come talk to Dan about your work. Tell him all about your worst times. It's The Art of Bombing.
Welcome to an all-new episode of the Art of Bombing podcast. It is me, your host, Dan Bublitz Jr., and with me, as always, is my co-host, co-producer, co-host, Mr. Josh Shirley. How are you doing today?
It's warming up out there. It's 80 today, which
nice.
I'll take. It's,
Heck
for
yeah.
a mid-April situation, I will take 80, my friend.
Right? It's been pretty warm here, too. And that's why...
Yeah.
If you're listening, I probably sound a little nasally, and I think I'm having some allergy issues because it's been so nice out. I've been outside doing stuff, playing in the garage, playing out in the yard. It's really dry here, so my allergies are kicking my arse.
Yes. It's the roller coaster nature of those temperatures, Dano.
Yeah, just
It'll
up
get
and
you.
down, up and down. Just got to make up its mind.
I know. It's not doing that. It's just, it goes one way, goes the other way. You can't predict it. I don't know what's going to happen. Like, my phone sucks at predicting the future. That's what's going on.
Well, I can tell you what, I can predict the future right now and let everybody know on this week's episode of the Between Bombs callbacks, you're going to hear a very similar conversation.
To predicting the future?
No, about the weather.
Oh. We talk about the weather on the callbacks?
Yeah. You were complaining about it not making up its mind.
Are you serious?
This is how you can tell you're getting older, is that you're complaining about weather. Oh, that's so funny. Well, on this week's episode, we got a great episode for everybody this week. We have the fantastic Billie Jo Gillispie on this week's episode of The Art of Bombing. Fantastic comedian. We talked a lot about a lot of different things in this episode, which if you listen to the callbacks episode that'll be out on Thursday, you'll kind of get a deeper dive into what we talked about, because we talk about, knowing your worth, making sure you charge for your worth, being able to kind of read the room, and accountability. Those are three major things that are very important in comedy. And we break that down a little deeper in the callbacks episode. But today it's the conversation with Billie Jo Gillispie. And like I said, fantastic comedian. What are your thoughts, Josh?
Like, it's 80 one day and then it's 30 the next day. It's the up and down of the weather, Dan. That's
just that up and down. Just can't get over this weather.
Oh, my
well,
Lord. Yeah.
Oh man. Well, this is Go.
But I was gonna bring it back to Billie Jo. Don't worry. Yeah, I'm with it. I remember that there was an episode with Billie Jo, and yeah, she's great. I think truly funny. Just tough as nails. Just has a lot a lot in that episode. I think it's going to be really great for anybody that is not only learning but seasoned. You guys cover a lot of bases. It's a great episode.
Oh yeah, we did. Yeah. So that's what's coming up on the show. After you listen to this conversation with Billie Jo, if you're in the Denver area, you can see her live. She's got a really big show coming up May 5th at the Bug Theater, which the Bug Theater is a fantastic venue. I performed there. Beautiful historic theater. But May 5th, she's got her psychedelic comedy show. And they're gonna be raffling off a couple of grow kits. So I think those are grow kits, or I don't know what those are exactly. I assume it's for like weed, so you can grow your own weed. Because actually in Colorado it is legal to grow. Obviously not on a commercial level, but I think you can have a couple of plants. So
yeah.
And that show is going to be headlined by AJ Finney, another fantastic comedian that lives here in Colorado, is from Kansas City.
That's right.
Yeah. And what's great about that he's headlining that show. It's a good lead in. He's also our guest next week on the podcast.
We planned it, guys.
We did this.
Just part of the plan. Yeah. So AJ Finney is going to headline, and he's next.
Yep, and next in line for the Art of Bombing. So yeah, make sure you tune in next week. Enjoy this conversation this week. Before we get into this conversation, though, we should probably just go through the housekeeping. You know the drill. Like, subscribe, share the content, follow us wherever you listen to the podcast. If you want to fire Josh, you can do so by going to artofbombingpod/ Oh man, I did it again. I did this. Oh my God. Oh, I did this on the callbacks episode as well, where I keep doing that. I keep messing this part of it up on the callbacks episode that came out last week. I did this very thing where instead of saying to buy me a coffee, I said, go to the Art of Bombing Pod. Although, you know what? I'm holding to it. Go to artofbombingpod.com, scroll down, and you will see a link that says buy me a coffee. Click that link and go over to buy me a coffee. Throw a little tip in the coffee pot. Help you support, our energy so we can keep going, and get some coffee to keep ourselves juiced up so we can do these episodes. And while you're there, leave a message firing Josh. That's where we're going with that. Right. I just do boom, bam, boom, bam.
Get me out of here before I hurt somebody or myself, guys. It's for the better. It's for the best thing for the company.
It is. He showed up 25 minutes late today. That's unacceptable. Unacceptable to show up late for a job you're not getting paid for. It's just ridiculous. He claimed he had to set up his equipment. Come on. You should have already had that. Your equipment should always be set up and ready.
And I had it set up in here earlier today, and I broke it down. It's totally my fault that I was late.
Oh, yeah, I know it is. And that's why you, the audience, should go over to buymeacoffee.com/AOBpod and fire Josh.
Agreed. Get in there. Do it.
I got one other thing I want to talk about real quick, too, before we get into this conversation with Billie Jo, and that is, you probably heard the ads on the last several episodes for puckshub.com. Puckshub.com is a web hosting, web building website for it's more geared towards comedians and podcasters. It basically takes simple templates that are customizable, and you can make a website in minutes. And the reason that we're advertising is because we have our website now hosted on that platform. If you go to artofbombingpod.com, you're going to see our website. We built it with their program. And the person who developed and created that program, Joe Christensen, is a friend and a former guest of the show. He's a comedian himself. He saw a need for a simpler solution for websites for comedians and podcasters at an affordable price. And so he developed this software so you can build your own websites. The best part is it's cheap. It's $5 a month for a subscription. But if you go over there and sign up, you can use our promo code, which is AOB Pod, and you're going to get a 2-month free trial of the program, of the software. And then from there on out, it's only $5 a month. So super cheap. And if you decide to use it and build a website, not only are you helping us because we're sending people that way, you're helping another comedian, so we're supporting each other. That's what this is. That's what comedy's supposed to be all about, supporting each other. And this is another way that you can support the show and another comedian by going and checking it out. Like I said, if you put in our code AOB Pod, you get a 2-month free trial on it. So you can go around, play around with it. And if it isn't quite suiting your needs, the best part is you can reach out to Joe and he'll try to fix it up to however you want it. I helped when I was working on building the Art of Bombing podcast website. I helped with some of the development stuff. I was kind of his test subject. I went in and built the stuff and we played around and I said, hey, we need this feature, we need that feature. And he did the programming and things like that. So check that out if you want an affordable website. That's puckshub.com. All right. And that's going to probably be the last time you hear me talk about it on the podcast. Outside of the ads, you'll hear the ads because we've got a great partnership with them. So keep that in mind. All right. For all my stuff, you can go to my website, danbublitz.com, and catch all my dates and upcoming things there. Josh, send them to, let me guess,
JoshShirleyComedy.com if you can find it.
There you go. It's that simple. Go to our websites. All right. This has been a little bit longer intro than we usually do, but we had to take care of this housekeeping. So thanks for listening. Enjoy this conversation with Billie Jo Gillispie.
And now it's time for the stand-up soundbite.
My dad thought only 2 kinds of women go in the service. So when I enlisted in the Marines, he prayed I was a slut. So we compromised. I'm both. My mother's reaction to my enlisting was to ask, are they gonna have her carry a gun? He says, don't worry, Mrs. Gillispie. We'll give her a big stick and have her yell bang bang. She fell for it. So the 3rd day of boot camp, when they marched us to the armory, I could not wait to write home and tell my mom, my recruiter lied. Made my platoon mates very nervous to see someone that fucking happy to get a gun. They started to whisper about a movie I hadn't seen. Till the rifle range, when a girl asked me, you're not gonna go all Full Metal Jacket on us, are you? Didn't make them feel any better. I didn't know what she was talking about. They never let me go to the bathroom alone again. I know it's kind of surprising someone this height being a Marine. You're right, the average height of a Marine is 6'3". I was so close. The problem that created is nothing fit. I would get on the helicopter and sit down, my flak jacket came up to here, pushed my helmet forward. I was a flying Ninja Turtle, guys. I don't think that my command did not play with the size disparity. Because we don't leave each other behind on the battlefield, so of course we practice carrying each other off. And for this, they would pair me up with the biggest, most out-of-shape fucker in the battalion. And then laugh, because I look like a chihuahua carrying a St. Bernard. They don't make child-sized combat gear for this country.
It's the art of bombing.
First, thanks for doing this. You just got back from quite a long road trip, and late last night even.
Yeah, I arrived back in Boulder at midnight. I'm exhausted, but I'm happy I woke up in my own bed because,
Isn't
that's
that
always
a nice feeling?
Oh, yes. I love the road. I love what I do out there. But yeah, it's always nice to come back to my favorite sheets on my bed.
Oh, absolutely. I totally agree with that. It's like I love getting these gigs that are within a couple hours of home to where you can go do the road gig, but you don't have to stay overnight. You can just drive home afterwards, sleep in your own bed. It's amazing. How was the show? I saw you had a show last night down in Pueblo. How did that go?
It was amazing. They sold it out. We had a comedian out of Chicago, Anthony Hernandez, Ricky Ramos from here in the Boulder County area, and then Hannah Jones headlined it, and it was just fabulous.
Oh, that's great.
That audience was there for it. They were having a blast. That's a fun room.
That's good. That's what you want. A good, fun show. Sold out, even better. That's awesome. What was the room? What was the venue?
Blue Cactus Room.
Blue Cactus Room. Awesome.
It was definitely one that I will try to go back and do again.
Oh, fantastic. Well, that's always good to hear when after you do a show you haven't done before, if it's good enough that you want to go back.
Yeah, that's always the sign.
Yeah, right.
It's like, would you go back? Quite a few times I've been like, nope, but that one, yes, I'll definitely go back.
Well, and you have to be selective. I just saw your post earlier today, too, that somebody's trying to get you to come to Florida but doesn't want to pay you. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Absolutely ridiculous. It's like
I'll give you drink tickets to come to Florida.
I was curious, was that just for like a show or was it part of a festival or like what?
Well, when I reached out to him again, he sent the same message. Then he was like, "Sorry, that message is from a year ago."
Oh, really? I copied my message from a year ago. Wow, that's wild. I don't know.
We're all guilty of a delayed send, but that's a real delayed send.
Right? No doubt. A year? What? That was from a year ago? So then did you follow up with, so if this was from a year ago, does that mean you're paying this time?
He did clarify that he now will.
Oh, okay. Well, hey, that's good. That's good. Got a little bit of clarification in there. Yeah, it's always wild to me how with comedy, people will just expect us to go to the end of the earth, for the exposure or this, the stage time and don't want to pay. Same thing with like fundraisers. While, I get giving back, but that's still time that you can only dedicate so much time to like doing a fundraiser or doing whatever it might be for pro bono, because you gotta be able to pay your own bills.
I run a fundraiser twice a year for the Denver Psychedelic Club. My comedians are still paid.
Yeah, exactly. And that's how I feel like that's how, fundraisers should be.
The majority of the money goes to the organization.
Yep.
But my comedians are still glad they came because they're not just there for the audience, but they sell their merch and they get a check.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's how it should be. That's really how it should be run. But I see so many of them are like, will you please donate your time? It's like, well, I can only donate so much time.
If I ask comedians to donate their time, I at least cover the cost of everything.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
If there's not alcohol provided, then it's in the green room. And I've covered that for them,
Yep.
We're going to at least take care of the comedians. But if they're volunteering, they're local.
Yeah.
Or they're already here.
Yeah, yep.
And they know
and I'm not even talking about like comedy, like other comedians doing it. I'm just talking about people who run these nonprofits just expect that you'll donate your time. I see people that run these nonprofits. So, you see it all the time on Facebook and all the Facebook groups. People are like, hey, doing this fundraiser for my nonprofit. Looking for a comedian, and then you're like, well, how much does it pay? It's like, well, you're going to donate your time.
Well, then you need to look within your membership, within your,
Yep, exactly.
Who already is sponsoring you and who is already donating.
Yep.
Ask them to donate their time.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Ask for your own volunteers. But again, that makes me sound like I don't ever want to do charity work, but that's not true. I do all kinds of, try to do all kinds of charity and I try to give back. You just can't give all of it away. That's all I'm trying to say.
Yeah, as soon as you said that, I was like, oh, well, wow, a few nonprofits in the area might be going, well, since you say pull from the volunteers, you're one of us. I may have just filled my calendar. Oops.
you're going to be a lot busier than you thought you were. Well,
I do believe in the causes, or I wouldn't be donating my time already.
Exactly. That's a good point. Now, it seems like this last week you were on the road for some, like before we started recording, we talked a little bit about it, that it was, for more personal stuff, visiting some friends and doing some other stuff. But you did a whole bunch of shows while you were out there too, in addition. And that looked like all the shows looked like they went really good.
It was a lot of fun. Packed house in Taos at the hamburger stand. Sold out show at the Guild Cinema in Albuquerque. I absolutely recommend doing that one. It was, I like Albuquerque.
Yep.
It's a smaller comedy community, but it's very tight knit. I love working with those guys. A lot of love for every last one of them. And,
that's one of the, I feel like one of the better scenes for like smaller scenes too. Like they put a lot of effort into getting better as a scene, not just like individuals, but there's a lot of like community and let's get better together. Let's try to all help each other get better, put on the best, become the best comedians we can and put on the best shows we can.
That's part of what makes Fort Collins so strong.
Yeah, which is great. We need more scenes like that.
Exactly.
I always look at it like that too, where it's like, there's plenty for everybody. We don't have to be in competition with everybody. I mean, at some point it is a little bit of, there is some competitiveness because there's, certain things.
But there's also, hey brother, let me give you a hand.
Exactly. And that's, you're going to be better off if you rise as a group and, all get better together, which is always good. But now it seemed like you had good shows. One little thing I wanted to just touch on real quick. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're okay, because that had to be scary. I saw a post earlier this week too, when you got to Albuquerque, you got carjacked.
No, I didn't get carjacked.
Oh, well, it said jacked, so I don't know. What did you mean by that?
We arrived early enough to have some dinner before the show. We're in the pizza parlor, and this dude just walks up, jacks my food, and walks out the door.
Well, I'm glad. I mean, but it's still crazy, but also I'm glad that's what it was. Because at the, by the post, it seemed way more serious.
Yeah, a lot of people reached out to me like, you dick. You had me all scared. It was just pizza.
It's just pizza. They just stole my pizza. But
it's Albuquerque, so I'm used to, if you look away from something, it's gone. That's why you don't look away from something. But when I looked up at him, he shoved a blunt in his mouth, grabs my plate and runs out the door. Okay.
That's so funny.
And I'm so used to things getting jacked in Albuquerque that I just looked at Hannah Gray, who was on the road with me, and was he smoking a blunt? And since it wasn't great pizza, it was dry ass fucking crust, no butter, no garlic, no olive oil, nothing on it. She looks at me and says, God, that cotton mouth's going to get worse.
He thought he was he thought he found a solution to a problem, and now he's just going to create more problems. Going to solve the hunger, but now he's going to be thirsty.
Well, there wasn't
if he would
much.
Have come back and like grabbed the coat too, like I'll take this too.
There wasn't much left on the pizza even, because I had already eaten part of it.
Yeah, Oh, that's wild. Oh, that's one thing that's fun about comedy. It's always an adventure. You never know what you're gonna get. And that's what we like to talk about here, because sometimes those adventures come from those worst gigs on the road, the bombing shows. Shows where you don't do very well, or again, they're just terrible shows for whatever reason, even if they're out of your control. So I would love to hear a story of a time where you felt like you either it was a really bad show or you felt like you bombed really bad, and kind of what led into it and what happened.
Well, we have a contest. Well, there's two I want to talk about. Okay. The first one is we have a contest here in Colorado at Comedy Works every year. And it's one of the few opportunities that most comedians get, local comedians, for a 5-minute professional video in a club.
Okay.
So, there's pressure to do well if you want to be able to have submission videos, etc.
Yeah, so it's not even just to win the contest. It's the pressures. Yeah. It's added
and then
pressure
there's
so
the
you
contest
get a good tape.
Too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I got scheduled for August. Yay. The VA, and let me preface this with, for those who don't know, I am a Marine veteran. The VA decided that the day of the competition that I'm supposed to compete is the day that they're going to schedule my mammogram.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So I tried and tried and tried to get that changed, and the closest they could get it was 6 more months out.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of in a high risk, so we couldn't do that.
Yep.
I ended up going from my mammogram to Comedy Works. I was in so much pain. You would have never guessed I had practiced. You'd never guess I had done a mic before.
Oh, wow.
I completely lost my jokes 3 different times. Couldn't even fake my way through. Yeah. Somebody actually suggested afterwards, maybe you should hit some mics.
Oh, wow. Ouch.
It was so bad that I felt I had earned that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
But still, it's like, ooh.
yeah, and when you're doing comedy out on the road and you're doing,
Yeah.
nice long sets on the regular,
Yep.
to earn a comment like that, you fucking sucked.
Yeah. That's when you know it was a bomb.
Yeah. I mean, that was the kind of set that causes people to quit comedy.
Well, it didn't cause you to quit comedy, which is great because you're still here, still kicking.
I'm a hardhead.
Well, and you have to be in comedy. I mean, that's, the people who do have sets like that and then quit, it's probably for the better anyway that they quit, because you have to have some sort of, thick skin of some sort.
To the point of scales.
Yeah, exactly. You need to be carrying a shield, really, to get through some of this. Now, with that, I guess I don't know much about mammograms, so obviously I don't know about that. So I'm curious how, because I don't know, like, why was it so painful to wear?
They take your tit and they squash it down as flat as they can get it.
Ouch.
Tissue thin.
That sounds horrendous.
When you've been through some stuff with that, they get it even thinner. Since I'm high risk, they really get in there and they really search and look at all the places they've been watching lately.
Yeah. Ouch.
So, yeah.
Wow. I didn't know that it was that intense. That sounds
Put your
horrendous.
testicles in a vice.
Well, I know.
And then, and that is exactly what it's like.
I don't want to try that. I've been kicked in the nuts and that hurts enough. So I'm definitely not going to put them in a vice. But if you're listening and that's your thing, no judgment.
You do you, baby.
Yeah, exactly. You do you. No, I guess I didn't realize that, because as a dude, it just assumed, that's just like an X-ray thing. I didn't realize that was part of the process.
Yeah.
Because that does sound painful.
It
and
is.
I could see how going from that and then there's no way you can focus on comedy.
I tried.
After that. Oh.
I tried to reschedule it, and then I tried to just endure the pain and yeah, I sucked so bad that night that I didn't even bother getting the tape.
Which, yeah, I've had sets like that where I record, and then after the set, I'm just like, I can delete that.
Yeah.
Delete that, or
usually I'll watch it. I'll watch my stuff to learn where I can improve. But sometimes it's like, can I even watch that?
That's when it's bad.
It's so bad. I have so many recommendations just not watching it that let's skip that.
We'll skip that this time. That we don't need that as part of the process. Yeah, and it's hard too. Like contests, I don't know how it is for you, but there's always that added pressure because it's a contest. You want to do well anyway, and I try to treat it as this is just stage time. I don't care if I advance. I'm just doing it for the opportunity. But, even with that mentality, deep down inside, you still want to advance and do well for the purpose of advance. Like,
Every
it's still
time.
there. And so I'll psych myself out a lot. And if I get too overpressured, I won't do well because I'll whether stumble over words or, whatever it might be. But I'm just like, I got to do well, I got to do well, I got to do well. And overthink it instead of just just go have fun.
Every time I'm in a contest, I'm surprised when I move forward. I'm just there to get that damn good 5-minute tape.
Yep.
Then that damn good 7-minute tape. Every time I move up in the contest, I'm just there for that next level.
Yep.
And then, it's always a surprise when I get to move forward.
Yeah, that's how I look at it too. For me, every time I've advanced in a contest or won, I won a contest one time. I've won a couple contests actually. Not any, they were just small, one night type contests or whatever. And even then I was surprised because some of the people that were in it, I'm like, well, I know they're a way better comic than me. I don't know how I pulled this off. But I'll take it, and I will take the prize money.
That's why there's always upsets in the comedy competitions, because we just know who we think are, and then one of them might have not as strong of a set as they usually do because their mammogram was that day or whatever.
Or whatever it might be. Yeah.
They're hurting somehow.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's something, with contests, because the Fort's Funniest just started up, for example.
And I'm already out of the running.
And are you?
I was chosen for last Thursday, and I was on my mental health trip.
Oh, so you couldn't. Okay, that's a bummer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
year 2 of not being able to compete.
Well, that means
next
year
year,
3.
man.
It's
Next
yours,
year,
right? Yeah, next year it's yours.
Next year, I'm at least going to get in it.
Yeah. Step 1, get in it. Well, what I was going to say with that is that, they said it was coming up and getting ready, but I felt kind of bad for the people who got picked for the first round because there wasn't a lot of time to prepare.
Oh yeah, it was.
It just the schedule came out the day before.
Yeah,
I
got notice.
That's a lot of pressure.
I got notification the day before, and I'm sitting. I'm off in Gallup, headed for Hayden, Arizona. I was like, well, let me send this email before I lose service, because Mormons and AT&T, they don't get along for some reason. Eastern Arizona, I always lose service.
Yeah, there's definitely some dead spots out there, that's for sure. But you said you had another one, was it? Another story that you were going to talk about, was that a contest as well?
No.
Oh, okay. Because you said there's
that
two
one
contests.
Was I have two stories.
Okay, I thought maybe it was from another contest.
No, this is a during COVID story, so it involves a virtual show.
Oh, okay. Yep. Which I have to say, you were putting on some pretty good virtual shows during the pandemic.
I book a hell of a show.
You were one of the few people who were putting good virtual shows. I mean, everybody was putting virtual shows on, but there's a difference between a virtual show and a good virtual show. I want to clarify that. You were putting on good virtual shows.
The night that I had Jackie Kashian on the show and some locals, Patrick Scott, freaking amazing, I had given her a guarantee based on what I had managed with local headliners. I figure if Rick Bryan can pull enough of a crowd that I can pay him $80 and all the other comics get paid sufficiently, then I can guarantee her $75.
Yep.
That's easy. Thank God I always put as soon as I give a guarantee, I put that money aside, because shit happens.
Yes.
Now, the show happened in September. There was a fire up in Grand County. There was a fire in Larimer County. They just kept getting bigger and bigger. That day, there's also a fire in Boulder County. And the two fires up in the mountains met.
Yep, I remember. That was just before we moved out here.
I knew who bought tickets the day before, and I knew who bought tickets the day of. Because, I had been doing this show for a while. And so when Friday, I did not hear the cash register at all. I started freaking out. I didn't turn on the news. I just automatically started promoting, trying to, and so I did not know what was going on.
Oh, no.
So the show kicks off, and I have 3 audience members. And so Jackie had said she was going to be running late. So I was like, okay, no problem, So I'm sitting there buying time, and under the computer, I'm on my phone texting people, hey, did you mean for that ticket to be a donation? Because even people who had bought tickets weren't in the room.
Yeah, yep.
Come to find out, many of my people who are regular audience members have vacation homes in Grand County and were under evacuation order. Or their home here in Boulder was under evacuation order. Pretty much most of the people who would have been there were kind of busy.
Yeah, bigger things happening.
Yeah.
Bigger things to take care of.
I never thought I would be glad to hear a natural disaster got worse, because, all the comedians did amazing jobs for the 3 people who were there. It's what happens when you get pros.
Yep.
They're like, 3 people are going to get a hell of a show.
Yep. Which I think is a true attribute of a pro. I hate when somebody comes in, because it's so unprofessional, when they come into a show and maybe it's, even if it's not even completely sold out or completely full, but there's a smaller audience, and then they just pick on the audience. It's like, why are you...
They're the ones who showed up.
Yeah, be happy they're here. If you're going to be mad at all the ones that didn't show up.
Don't punish the ones who are here for the ones who aren't.
Exactly. Yeah, that's one of my pet peeves with comedy.
Me too. It's like these people showed up, give them what you got.
Yes, give them
you
the best
prepared
show.
a good show, give it to them.
Yep, exactly.
So, the show was amazing. We finish up, and Josh Crambo was my co-host. We're sitting there afterwards. We're like, what the hell happened? How did this happen? And then I brought up another window and saw on Facebook all the evacuation orders. And I was like, oh, thank God. The whole state's on fire. I've never thought I would be glad to hear a natural disaster got worse.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
but it definitely explained what happened.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, that's why too. It's funny because it's important to think about keeping track of current events, in the sense like you never know what's happening. So if you're especially if you're producing shows and stuff, it's one thing to try to see what other events are going on, what your competition is, but then when you're competing against natural disasters, that's a good thing to know too. Because then you're like, oh, okay, I get this. Maybe we should just postpone this show because there's an urgency elsewhere.
I never realized how many things happen on Wednesday until I took the Tandoori show virtual. Which was the beginning of Outhouse Comedy Productions. We had a show on January 6th.
Oh, jeez.
About 3:00 in the afternoon, I'm sitting there watching what's going on, and I'm like, oh, crap, how do I transition from this to, okay, guys, now let's laugh?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's another thing that's really sad to me, is how politics have shaped comedy, to the extent of just the sheer mention of politics sometimes can just turn the room off, and it's like, we're here to laugh. You know what? Who cares what's happening in politics? Let's just come have a good time. And don't let that BS ruin a day.
Oh yeah, people were very nervous last year when I took my show on a month-long tour through the Bible Belt. Mm-hmm. They were just like, are those folks going to accept you? Are you sure you're
okay?
safe? Yeah, a lot of local comics were like, if you need anything, if you need bailed out, if you need your car repaired, if they steal it, if they destroy it, whatever, if you end up in the hospital, you call us. We'll be on the way. We'll send you whatever. Mm-hmm. Are you sure?
Yeah, it's wild how people are. But at the same time, even though you're talking about your tour and people being worried for you, it's still people, hopefully like to come laugh, and they still come laugh at everything. And it's not, it's conservative, and it's, there are people that are extremists out there, but not every person in those areas is extreme. And it's easy to forget that and just think, oh, you're going to this place, everybody's going to, before you know it, you'll be burning on a steak or whatever. And it's like, come down. They're people.
I have performed to many rooms that I would say were very red leaning, if not completely red. Not only did I survive, they had fun.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
I just chose which jokes to do.
Yeah. No, and that's being a professional and being able to read a room, read an audience, and knowing, not to do material that is going to necessarily lose them, because ultimately that's the other thing
that they will see as political.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's easy to forget as comedians too, like our job at the end of the day, doesn't matter where we're at and wherever we're being paid to be or whatever, our job is to make whatever audiences in front of us laugh and have a good time. And if we deliberately try to do the opposite, we're not doing our job at all. We're deliberately sabotaging ourselves. Like we got, and that's not a thing, with, because now cancel culture and wokeism and everybody's against, it's like all the stupid things. And it's not none of
cancel
that.
Culture's an excuse.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's just
if
reading
you've
an
said
audience.
things that upset the fans, they're no longer your fans.
Yeah, exactly.
That's basically cancel culture.
No, absolutely.
Nobody did that to us.
No.
If we've ticked somebody off and they're no longer our fan, we did that to ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. But what I'm saying, like, because the argument always is, oh, well, it's free speech and I can say what I want. And yes, you absolutely
and we can take the consequences of it.
Exactly. There's consequences that go with it. But going back to my point about that is that making that choice. So if I'm in an audience and I don't think they're going to like a particular joke about whatever topic it might be, and I choose to not do it, it's not because I'm afraid of being canceled or them. It's because my job is to make them laugh. And if I know that a joke isn't going to do that job and it's just going to have an opposite effect, as a professional, it makes no sense to do that,
Yeah. And I was discussing that with somebody today who is just taking on the producing role, and they're going to be in a gay establishment. And I was like, remember to book for the audience. Lesbians don't want to hear blowjob jokes. And I gave them example of somebody who was featuring for me. The whole crowd it looks like DOB for that city's turned out. So we have a room full of lesbian bikers. And this person is up there talking about straight sex. Yep. And somebody in the audience just flat out yelled out, we don't want to hear that shit.
Yep, I could see that.
So I was telling that person about that. I'm like, you got to book for your audience.
Oh, absolutely.
Yep. And he was like, well, that's dumb. And I was like, keep that. See how long you keep the show.
You're right. You might think it's dumb, but wait till...
Wait till the first time somebody's telling you off. They're in your face telling you that they don't like who you booked.
Yep. Or just you see them bomb, and even if the people don't tell you they didn't like who you booked, you just see it for your own eyes because they're not laughing. And then people are like, well, this show sucked. Because that always goes back. It's not, when you're a producer, if your show isn't good, if a comedian comes on and doesn't do well, and even if, especially, once in a while, it's fine. It's going to happen because we all know as comedians, and I think even audiences know that not everybody's on their game every time, and you just can't prevent it. You can't 100%. You can't just hit hundreds all the time. That's going to happen, but
sometimes your boobs hurt.
Exactly. Yeah, there's something there that's going to cause you not to do well that day, and with that, like. So there's that forgiveness, but at the same time, if you keep booking that, and it's still a reflection of you as a producer and your show, and if you start getting, that happen on a regular basis, people aren't going to want to come to your show anyway. They're going to be like, well, you don't book anybody good.
Tandoori was the first show I started running. That's why I'm so glad that it went for 4.5 years,
Yeah, which that's huge. Congratulations. Yeah. I mean, it did just...
It just ended, yes.
But still, over 4-year run, that's huge.
yeah, I'm pretty proud of that. But when I first got it, my first thought was, who are the funniest fuckers who'll answer my calls? Because I wanted to build something.
Yep.
And every time somebody walked out the door with, I'm coming back, that was freaking awesome. That was what I was going for. And that's how I made it last 4.5 years, because I wasn't booking my buddies. I wasn't booking just people who show up at my mics. I mean, yeah, I was watching that for, who's working, who's getting strong. And for that reason, I gave a lot of great local comics their first paid gig, and I'm proud to see where they've ended up.
Yeah, and that's an amazing feeling, being able to create those opportunities like that. Yeah. It's always just...
Knowing I recognized that talent from the beginning.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, that's always good. And yet, to your point too, that's huge. Going back to what you said, you were looking to see who is the funniest people, because you weren't looking to book, buddies and stuff, because that does happen a lot in comedy.
And those shows don't last.
And they don't last. Exactly. And to your point, you got to book for your audience. And what you might find as great comedy, your audience might not agree, because comedy's so subjective. So as a producer, you have to be able to set aside what you want and, like I said, bring in people that the audience might, that they're going to like and that they're going to want.
There's a few comedians out there that I really think are hilarious, but the show was semi-clean,
Yep.
So I couldn't bring them on because they're not as clean as what the owner preferred.
Yep.
I'm like, dude, you're funny. I just can't bring you to that show.
Yeah. I'm doing my job here. It's nothing personal. Now, when you have sets that are, not at 100%, or you feel like they were kind of bombs or whatever, what are you doing to, like, I know earlier you mentioned that you try to watch your videos and stuff, but what are the things that you watch for to try to prevent from happening? Do you analyze the video and see, oh, I said this, that's when I lost the audience, or how do you try to figure that out?
Well, when I notice a joke just did not work like it normally does, I'll go back and see if I screwed up my timing. Did I skip some words, blah, blah, blah. Sometimes it's just like when I say that I'm a Marine, I notice a lot of, boomer women are just like...
Yeah, they just decide to close off.
Yeah. At that point, it wasn't me. It's that they're sitting there thinking, you're the reason my granddaughter might get drafted. Guilty. Sure as shit am. Have a nice day. But if I do my job right, I'll get them in later jokes, because not all of my material is about the military.
Yeah.
I noticed when I was in New York, if I was doing those jokes, I lost the audience. They can't relate.
Yep.
But if I start talking about being a small town girl up in the big city, a lot of those people can relate. They're from a town like Lone Grove. They grew up with dreams and they're off living them.
Yep. Now, going back to being a veteran, do you do a lot of shows for veterans too?
I do, as often as possible.
Yeah. Do you feel like you get a warmer reception when you're performing for veterans versus just like a regular audience?
Sometimes.
Just kind of varies.
Well, there's still a lot of sexism and so forth in the military. So if it's a mostly male, when I do some of these things for the veteran service organizations, I'll choose my jokes by how many women are in a command position and how many women are in the audience. Because some jokes just get skipped because these guys are not going to like me poking fun of the shit they put us through.
Yeah.
Yep,
because they're into it.
Yeah.
They don't want their thing being made fun of.
Yeah.
What makes sense. And again, that's just good. That's just being a good comedian, being able to read your audience, which is huge.
When I get in front of an audience that is mostly women veterans, that is when I usually have my best sets. Because there are jokes that are hilarious if you know what the hell I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. They are the only ones who do. So, I have some very niche jokes. But I did an hour and a half in front of a women's veteran service organization that I feel like was my strongest set ever. Most of those jokes would not pass for a regular audience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, yeah, you got to have that. People got to be able to understand the reference and be able to relate to that joke. So, yeah. Now, when you feel like you're losing an audience or you feel like a joke bomb, like in that moment, what kind of goes through your mind and what do you try to do to like deviate? You're starting to lose them. You want to try to win them back.
I'm trying to figure out which subject I think I should hit on.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if I'm losing them on the military stuff, I'll go to the small town girl stuff. If I'm losing them there, let's talk about my road life. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I can always poke fun of the various places I've been because I have that. You know.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll just change subjects. I will try to find a subject that reaches them.
Yeah. So just kind of pick at straws, essentially, till you find the topic that gets them back.
Well, I like to think it's more of reading the room than picking at straws.
Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, like last night, I'm looking out at this audience in Pueblo, and I'm like, I had already started the setup for a joke, and I realized, no, they're not. So they're so not going to go for this one. So, since there was no way I could take what I had done and transition to another joke, I just had to admit I was like, yeah, you're not going to like that one.
Did you say it out loud?
Yes.
Yes. That's awesome. Sometimes that's like the best thing you can do is just
being
call it
honest.
out.
Sometimes is a lot more efficient. Helps you get. You're not going to lose them if you're like, yeah, you're not going to get that one and go on.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you just abort that joke mid-sentence and don't acknowledge it. Yeah, you're going to lose them.
Yeah, they're going to be so confused because now they're going to be thinking about, was that a joke? Like, what? What did I miss? Yeah, exactly. They're going to be, what did I miss?
What'd she miss?
And then they're going to miss everything you say right after that because they're going to be concentrating on trying to figure out solving that puzzle.
Yep.
Now, for you, what's your writing process like? And for your evolution of a joke, how long do you kind of, work on a joke or a bit? You think of the idea and you start developing it and then working it out before you decide, okay, this is going to be strong enough. It's got to go in the act. Maybe I should concentrate on something else and just put this on the shelf for now, or just it's not going to ever work and forget it in the past.
Well, if I try a joke 3 different ways and it never hits, then I'm going to toss that to the side.
Now, when you say 3 different ways, do you mean like changing up, delivery or the wording
or the timing? I'll fiddle
kind of
with
the mechanics of it.
If I think it's funny and I take it to the stage and it doesn't work and I fiddle with it and I take it to the stage again, I'll fiddle with it 3 times before I'm like, all right, maybe that's just for me.
Mm-hmm.
Because, we think we're hilarious even when we're not.
I know. I wish some of the things I say or think about all day would be good enough for the stage. I would have an endless amount of material. But most of it is for me.
I've batted it around. It don't work. But, the wonderful thing about being here in Colorado is you can hit 3-4 mics some nights.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So, I have thought of stuff that morning and then had it what I felt was ready to be slid into a set by the end of a couple of days.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, yeah, I've reworded it. I've polished it. It has gained in response. I'm ready to put it in the set. Yeah, a couple days sometimes around here.
Yeah, just kind of depends then how much time you can get to get it worked out, essentially. So because you
if
said,
I feel I got good polish on it at home, I have thrown a brand new joke in that I've never taken to a mic.
Yeah,
but that I felt it was strong, and usually when I do that, I'm right. Thankfully so far.
Fingers crossed. Knock on wood. All the things. I've definitely been wrong more times than I'd like to admit. When I'm like, this is going to be great. And most of those situations are things that I literally think about before I go on stage. It's like I'll have my set list written out and then something will happen or I'll think of something while I'm sitting there. I'm like, I should open with that. And 9 times out of 10, I should not have opened with that. Because then I make it awkward, and then I have to dig myself out of it. Unfortunately, I'm good at digging myself out, so I'm able to salvage it. Sometimes those first 30 seconds are pretty awkward.
You know, as a host, it's always your job to acknowledge when somebody really fucking bombed.
Oh,
you know?
Yeah.
And I had not hosted a mic in quite a while. They had me guest host Vision Quest one night, and a whole bunch of brand new comics came, and one of them called me back up to the stage with, "Let's just bring the Aryan princess back up."
Oh.
I looked at the bartender. I said, "I'd like to think he called me a science experiment." He was like, "Oh no, he called you a Nazi."
Wow. Ouch.
I haven't seen that kid since.
What did you say when you got on stage? After, because sometimes, like you said, when comics do things like that, sometimes you just have to address it. Did you say something when you got on stage, or like rib back a little bit, or do you even remember?
I was gentle with the ribbing, but I don't remember exactly what I said.
Yeah, because sometimes it's hard not to say something.
You know, I mean, you have to, somebody calls you
oh, yeah,
the Aryan princess. Yeah, something needs said.
Absolutely.
But I don't remember exactly what it was.
Yeah, I was at a mic not too long ago, and there was a couple new I think it seemed like they had maybe lost a bet type thing, and that's why they were there. And the host, one of them was just, his jokes were just, it was wild. And the host went up there and pretty much roasted him right away, and then kind of made fun. But it was hilarious, and it needed to be, because everybody was in the room. You know, like the awkward tension needed to be broken, because everybody was just like, "What just happened? Is this real? Is this really happening right in front of our eyes right now?"
Yeah. The more good comics you get the opportunity to work with, the more an open mic can hurt your ears.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Oh, no, absolutely. I think that's true just for the longer you do comedy, period. You know, I find it, I still try to go to mics and stuff when I can, but I find it harder and harder to go the longer I've been doing comedy, just because I'm like, oh, I just can't. I don't want to sit through any of this. I've already sat through this so much. Now I'm like, I just don't.
I can tell you all 5 premises.
Yeah, exactly. That's what's great about, and I know they do shows like this. In fact, when I was in Albuquerque for the Funny Fiesta earlier, they tried to do this at one of the. It was just an open mic, but I don't think they ended up doing the open mic, but I don't think they were able to do it. But they had the open mic bingo, where it was like all these, you know, tropes of open mics on the bingo sheet, and things like that are hilarious to me, because there's so many things that you can definitely expect to see at an open mic.
I think we just might play that at my next comedian appreciation night.
Yeah, right?
This year we did headshots and a live stream and dinner. Maybe next time we'll play bingo.
I love it. Now, with goals, what kind of goals do you set for yourself in terms of like short term, long term, and what do you try to do to accomplish your goals?
Well, when I first started, you know, being an opener instead of just an open micer, my goal was get on 2 shows a month. Mm-hmm. You know, and then slowly that grew. This year I don't so much have a monthly goal, but I plan on doing 12 new states, returning to at least 8 states.
Man, that's 12 new states. That's a huge goal. I got my little goal checklist over on my office wall. I have 1 new state. You're making me look lazy.
If it makes you feel any better, my friends make me look lazy.
I'm calling myself out on that. I'm like, you're like 12 states. I'm like, I might need to change that number.
Well, I keep going back to the same places.
Yep.
So I need to really, expand.
No, absolutely.
I haven't done comedy in Utah yet. I haven't done comedy in Oregon yet. I intend to go to Boston this year because that has been put off 2 years now. Mm-hmm. So it is time that I make it out there. I have a lot of friends out there that it's time to go do comedy in their scene.
Yep. No, absolutely. And I always think that's fun too. Like when you get to check off a new area that you've never performed, even, it's a cool little accolade, even if it's just for us, it's still a cool little thing that you get to say you do. I've seen comics do that too, where they like make maps of where they performed. And I've thought about doing that, but it would just be all in the same little, like just the same little small towns throughout the country or whatever. But it would still be neat to actually like see that visualization.
Well, when I started working on this year's travels and it came time to start booking the Ohio part of it, I realized I don't know the geography of Ohio. I don't know what cities are where in relation to each other. Mm-hmm. So I reached out to a friend of mine who's an elementary school teacher, and I was just like, where do you get your maps? Because I need the kind of stuff that you are working with your students on so that I can have it on the wall. Because on an atlas, Ohio is 5 pages.
Yeah, yep.
That doesn't help me to be able to remember which one's where in relation to what.
Yeah, yep. Definitely need to have that in the forethought when you're trying to plan logistics, because it's easy to when planning tours and stuff too. It's so easy to forget about like the logistics, and you'll think, oh, I can do a show over here, and then after that I can go here and then over here, and then you realize, wait a minute, I'm gonna go here, but to do this next show I have to go back. And then the other show, I got to go back the way I just came and then some.
And if you're like me and you try to book a lot of your stuff around the lesbian campouts around the nation, it's like I would book my tour and then I would find out I am driving away from what I really want to attend. That's not comedy, Yeah. So, this year before I even started booking road stuff for this year, I started trying to find out where all the campouts are and when. That way I can be within 100 miles. I can be at the campout, go do the show, come back, hang with my lesbian friends, Yep.
Yeah. And that's good planning. Got to have that good planning in there.
People are like, why are you camp on the road? I'm like, because that's where I find my friends.
Comedy's an adventure, especially when you make it an adventure. Well, this has been great. We're going to start wrapping up. One of the things I talk about at the end that I like to ask at the end, because we talk about those bad gigs, I like to close with a positive story. So I would love to hear one of your favorite gigs. It doesn't have to even be the best gig you've ever done. Just whatever gig was a favorite to you and for whatever reason.
When I got to do my first comedy show in Oklahoma was a pride show. Now, having been raised uber religious in a small town in Oklahoma, it was really nice to be able to return to do comedy for the first time as myself. Headlining a pride show in Oklahoma, really, that was spectacular to me.
That's awesome. That's a beautiful accolade and achievement to be able to do. That's awesome. Well, the last question, we have the Art of Bombing Get Pumped playlist. Doesn't have to be a song that gets you pumped for comedy. It can get you pumped for whatever. What's a song that you would add to the playlist?
I know it's probably going to be redundant, but Sarah Bareilles, Brave.
Right. I don't know if that's on there or not. That's one thing I have ran into.
It's all about saying what needs said, speaking up and enjoying your life because of it. So how is that not?
I know, right? Well, it's
have
funny.
We failed each other?
Well, I feel like humanity's just failed in general. We failed everybody on a lot of things. This has been great. Where can people find Billie Jo? Send them.
OuthouseComedy.com is my website. Yes, it was only put up a couple weeks ago, so don't panic when Google says it's a brand new website. It is, but it's me and it's real, and you can go on there to see what shows I have coming up. I have shows through May up there, so more stuff will be added by the time this comes out.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yep. Awesome. And then are you on social media? Do you have any
I
social
am
media?
on Instagram at Billie Jo Gillispie Comedy. I'm on Facebook. I'm not on Twitter anymore. I run the Psychedelic Club. Like I said, the show for the Psychedelic Club here in Denver. It's called Psychedelic Comedy. And this year we have moved to the Bug Theater.
Oh, that'll be fun. That's a beautiful theater.
It is. It's May 5th at the Bug Theater. I have AJ Finney headlining.
Oh, wow. That's going to be a great show.
The last time I had him headline this show, we sold out, expanded, sold out. So, I mean, it's the only show I've ever sold out 3 times.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah, so we're so glad to have him coming back. We have Reva Riley, who you know out of D.C., coming for that one.
Oh, nice.
And Savannah LaBelle. She's a Colorado comedian now, but she's out of New York and New Jersey.
Cool. Well, that's going to be a fun show. And you said that's May 5th?
May 5th.
May 5th. Well, if you're in the Denver area, go check that out. That'll be a good time.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this has been great, Billie Jo. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, man. This has been fun.
This has been a Dan Bublitz comedy production.